Have you guys ever noticed how when a new game releases, everyone's playing it, watching it, streaming it, making videos about it? It seems like the next big thing, a sure thing. 80,000 viewers, 100,000 viewers at one time. And then, just like turning off a light switch, it's just gone. Now, before I dive into this video, I want to make it very clear that this has nothing to do with the quality of the games themselves. The games that we are going to be using as examples are actually well received by the people who have played them. These games are just being used as examples to indicate and show how a broader pattern has been noticed by me and I believe is at play amongst a lot of new titles that release. So we're going to start with Cronos: The New Dawn. Now, this is an RPG. It was showcased at the most recent Game Awards. A man was dressed as the main protagonist, bracing the stage, this larger-than-life, sort of quasi-robotic looking character. Now, the game's premise was simple. Post-apocalyptic world, travel back in time to try to figure out what caused the devastation that is currently embracing the present. A lot of people have compared this game to a newer age Dead Space. Dead Space, of course, was very highly regarded and even still is. Now, here's where things get interesting. There was a lot of buzz around this game for it being in third person. It's an alluring and dark atmosphere. Again, Dead Space-like gameplay with the same sort of creatures to kill, so it naturally received a significant amount of attention, and when it released, it was topping nearly 100,000 viewers on Twitch. But now, the game struggles to even pull in 500. So why is this happening? When a game releases and it has such strong ratings and is generally well received by the player base, where does the game go? Well, one of the easiest ways to explain that, and something that you may be thinking right now, is that it's a single player game. It's an RPG that once you finish, well, you're done. There's usually not a whole lot of replay value in RPGs unless you're just a trophy grinder or something like that. You just really enjoy maxing out your characters, etc., etc. But is that what's happening here at large? Personally, I don't think so. Especially considering that this game has only been out for roughly a month. It hasn't been out for a year. It certainly hasn't been out for 5+ years, where just about everything in the game could have been seen or done. I mean, we're talking about a brand new game here. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think it is, and coming from me, you may be a little bit surprised, but I think that content creators and streamers are artificially inflating the popularity of games only to contribute to their death. Now, I don't think that this is some sort of paid agenda that streamers and content creators have it out for games or are directly contributing through intention to the demise of specific games. But the truth is that the biggest reason behind the numbers that these games see in the beginning of their life cycles is pretty simple. It's because a lot of these larger creators that the platforms are driven by, they're sponsored to play the game. Now, they may not all be paid to play the game, but oftentimes they are, and if they're not, they're even still given free copies of the game to play early to showcase to their communities and potentially even give away a few of those copies to their communities for free. And of course, all of this is going on through mutual agreement and of their own accord. Nothing wrong with that. That's the nature of the business. However, it creates two issues. In the beginning, it falsely increases the perception of how popular the game is. And then once those large streamers that drive in that initial flux of viewership and eyes leave, the community leaves, the game falls all the way down to the bottom and creates another false perception of how unpopular the game is. But it's much harder to bounce back from something like that, especially when the top tier people are no longer playing it or giving it coverage. It more or less just goes to a wasteland to die. It's pretty basic psychology. When people browse Twitch and they see a category for a new game that has 100,000 viewers, they'll think to themselves, you know, wow, I need to check that out. I've never heard of that before. Oh yeah, maybe I have heard of that. That's the new game that I had on my wish list. I really need to see what's going on with that. But when they come across a game that only has 300 viewers, even if it's relatively new, again, in the case of Cronos, it's only been out for a couple months, they're probably not going to be as inclined to stick around and watch it. Now, the same exact thing recently happened to a game called Active Matter. It's a relatively new extraction shooter. You may or may not have heard of it. It incorporates all the extraction elements that we've come to know, and it's paired it with this quasi-parapsychological multiverse that you can roam around and explore in. The goal is to simply collect loot, develop your character, and survive. Again, same story. The game has good bones, and it's been fairly well received for an indie developed title. They also have a partner program which you can apply for if you want to try to get a copy of the game for free, as it is currently only available through their website and does not exist on any other launcher. Now, this game hit a peak on Twitch of roughly 50,000 viewers, which is pretty freaking good for an indie developed title, especially an extraction shooter, which is a very saturated and competitive marketplace at this particular point. Most of the games that try to enter into it are subparly made and often fail very quickly. Fast forward until now, and the game sits at roughly 1,500 viewers at all times, even more than Cronos the New Dawn, but certainly nothing to brag about. So I'm hoping that you can see the trend here and what I'm trying to get at. These games are good games. They come out and they follow a very specific marketing formula that many new games follow. Some of it is by design and some of it is just happenstance because that's the way the industry works now. But this isn't a direct fault of the game. Of course, the bad games are going to end up where they rightfully deserve, but in this two examples here, that's not the case. These games aren't inherently bad. It's simply something that exists within the content creation space that creates artificial inflation in the overall popularity of the game way too soon, only to watch it plummet off a cliff when the viewership goes away, not really ever giving this game a fair chance in the beginning to be fleshed out amongst its appropriate and proper player base to discover what it is and whether or not they really like it. All of this, of course, only hurts the game that they were initially trying to bring attention to. And what could be ultimately done about it, I'm not 100% sure. This is just business as usual in the streaming and content creation space. Creators are just being paid or sponsored to play these games to get them in front of eyes so that people know about them. That's just how it is. There isn't anything necessarily wrong with it. It just creates an unintended consequence. So it's a double-edged sword. The gaming industry is extremely competitive these days, and we see it all the time with mass layoffs and studio closures. A lot of the time, only Goliaths of the industries that have huge IPs under their belt, like Call of Duty or Battlefield, are able to withstand a lot of the test of the time that the gaming industry shifts bring. For the rest of these guys who are out here trying to create their passion projects or something that they feel is unique and new, it's simple. Show up, pay for the sponsorships and the views to the communities that want to see it, and hope for the best. It's just a shame that this often leads to the non-discovery of games that would have otherwise held much higher regard in the gaming space. That's not to say that they still don't and that their life cycles are over. People who seek out these games and want to play them are going to do that. It's just natural for anyone who's a gamer that wants a specific type of game. But when you're thinking about it and seeing it from a viewership perspective and a content creation perspective, it creates a bubble. It creates a bubble of this is something that's new, this is something that's worth paying attention to, and it's inflated and inflated and inflated for days, weeks, maybe months if you're lucky, and then all of a sudden that bubble just pops. Away goes everything, away go the big creators, away go the viewers, and oftentimes away go the game.